This Saturday, it's Flag Day. Happy Flag Day. It's also President Trump's birthday. It's also the day of his big North Korean dictator-style military parade in Washington. More tanks and guns unloading this afternoon outside Washington, D.C. Look at that. Saturday is also the day organizers are planning the next very large nationwide day of protest against Trump and what Trump is doing to the country. Even as Trump panics and inexplicably calls in the military over protests in Los Angeles, this Saturday's protests are being organized by a large coalition of groups and grassroots organizers in all 50 states, all across the country. They're calling it No Kings, the No Kings Day of Defiance. They said this today, quote, "The No Kings mobilizations on June 14th were already planned as a peaceful stand against authoritarian overreach and the gross abuse of power this administration has shown. Now, this military escalation," meaning what's happening in Los Angeles, only confirms what we have known. This government wants to rule by force, not serve the people. From major cities to small towns, we will rise together and say we reject political violence. We reject fear as governance. We reject the myth that only some deserve freedom. On Saturday, June 14th, more than 1,800 rallies will take place across the country, peaceful, organized, and united. The No Kings movement has posted a map online showing where those 1,800-plus rallies will be held. I should tell you, and I think this is important, of those 1,800, more than 100 of those have been added to the map since Trump announced that he was sending the National Guard into L.A. If he was hoping to get people to not protest, it's backfiring. Organizers are going to hold a series of online trainings this week ahead of the big day. Tomorrow, it's a Know Your Rights training that they're doing nationwide by Zoom so people can better understand how to interact with law enforcement or provocateurs during the demonstrations. Then 2 days later, on Thursday, another big nationwide Zoom call. They're calling it a pre-mobilization mass call. That's for anybody who's planning to participate. Potentially tens of thousands of people are going to be on that call. It's basically just to talk strategy ahead of the big day Saturday. But tonight, as the Trump administration does its best to try to turn the streets of L.A. into a war zone.
Befits people who assume responsibility for the defense of the nation and the welfare of their troops. They command the power of life and death itself on the field of battle. But those ranks also carry immense responsibility. If they are truly Washington's heirs, they should speak up now and stand with the first commander-in-chief against the rogue 47th. And Tom, your story really went viral last night, gained a lot of traction, resonated with a lot of people. Tell us more about this argument, because we know in the Trump first term, there were times when the Pentagon defied him, when Secretary of Defense Mattis, others told him no. We're not seeing that around this time around.
No, he learned his lesson from his first term, which is to stack the institutions around him with sycophants and yes men and people who have no real authority in their own right other than as reflections of the power of Donald Trump. Nonetheless, there are senior military officers who had careers long before there was a Donald Trump in office, and they know this is wrong. They know this is absolutely wrong. Donald Trump led these young men and women in not just an unseemly display, a violation of military decorum and a violation of military regulations. I taught military officers for 25 years. If I had walked into a room like that and led jeers against elected American officials, not only would I have been in trouble, but any military officer who had clapped along with that would have been in a hell of a lot of hot water as well, because we pride ourselves on an apolitical, a nonpartisan military that serves, first of all, the Constitution and the elected leaders, whoever they are, as chosen by the American people. We don't have a military that is out there hooting and nodding and laughing at ridiculing a former commander-in-chief, a sitting governor, the mayor of a major city. That's playing with political fire, and Donald Trump knows it, and he doesn't care. This is really important to point out. He doesn't care about any of those people in the military. They are just fodder for him. They are just raw material for his ego and for his autocratic plans. And somebody has to speak up. Someone with stars on their shoulders needs to say something and lead these young men and women. It's not their fault, their responsibility. There should be better training, better explanation about why they shouldn't have been doing that. But in the end, the fault lies with their officers and their leadership.
And Tom, we were saying earlier this idea that for President Trump, he really seems to be putting forth this image, this notion that it's his military. It's not the United States' military, it's his military. And we see that not just yesterday with the backdrop there at Fort Bragg, but also the way he is using the armed forces on the streets of Los Angeles right now over the objections of that state's governor, as well as what we will see this weekend when he commemorates the Army's birthday, but does so, of course, on the streets of Washington, D.C. on his own birthday.
Right. He thinks of the military as toy soldiers. He thinks of them as pieces to be moved about, to serve him, to give him parades, to salute him, to call him sir. He loves all that stuff. That's what he thinks the military is. And, you know, as the Atlantic, as you know, reported a while back, he thinks that the people who actually made the ultimate sacrifice, the people who gave their lives for this country, are just losers and suckers. They're just saps who ended up under a white headstone somewhere. Trump loves the pomp, he loves the obedience, and he loves the idea that the military is also his personal muscle, that it's his personal security force to be used at will, which is really what's going on in Los Angeles. What he's doing in Los Angeles isn't really about Los Angeles. It's about setting up the idea and getting people used to the idea that Donald Trump can bypass your local community, your state, your county governments, and just put troops in your streets anytime he feels like it, because he's the president and these people in uniform are his personal security force.
Tom, we talk a lot, and we have for years, about Donald Trump's violation of norms. Could you actually spell out in more practical, real-world terms the danger and risk of a military that is actually political instead of apolitical?
All you have to do is look around the world and look through history. I mean, do Americans want to have a Latin American military that snaps to attention to some caudillo, to some guy wearing a big hat who says that, in the words of a Latin American dictator in the 30s, for my friends everything, for my enemies the law. And the military will be, my muscle to enforce that. That's what a politicized military looks like. A politicized military is the one who says, we decide if we're going to support the elected president. We decide if the Constitution needs to be operating today. We decide where your civil rights begin and end, because we have guns and we have tanks and we are organized and we really represent. And this is where the overlap with the Trumpian kind of real America, who are his people kind of approach really becomes clear. Politicized militaries around the world often decide we are the real guardians of the nation. We're the true patriots, not the rabble in the street, not those people waving flags and standing in front of us, chanting and singing. We're the true Americans who understand the nation, and therefore we should rule. And that Donald Trump has no problem with that, as long as at the top of that pyramid there's always somebody named Donald Trump.
Are coming out and showing support, so we're excited.
Since the cuts began, I wonder what you've been hearing from fellow veterans.
Yeah. Well, I could just tell you my own personal experience. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, as I said, and I get my cuts. I get my health care through the VA, and I'm there almost every week for a variety of issues. And when I walk through the halls, I hear it on the lips of the service providers, the healthcare workers. They're nervous. They're very concerned. They're talking about the cuts. They're talking about the things that they are seeing that this administration is doing. And I've been going to the VA for years, and I've never heard healthcare providers talk politics. And now it's all I can hear about. And if you can look me in the eye and tell me that that's not impacting the quality of care, I just don't think anybody can do that. I wouldn't believe it if they tried. So it's quality of care, it's our benefits, and it's our broader democracy that we're out there protesting for.
Let Let me show you some recent headlines. Recent months. February, Defense Secretary Hegseth says the Pentagon will cut roughly $50 billion from non-lethal programs. In April, another $5 billion plus from what Hegseth called wasteful contracts. Just yesterday, members of Congress were visibly frustrated that plans to modernize the Army that were submitted didn't have a budget blueprint. Do these things help accomplish the administration's stated goal, which is to strengthen the military and our national security?
Yeah, I'm not sure how one cuts the military and cuts veterans care and think that's actually going to help this country. What we should be investing in is the services for our veterans and ensuring that the military has what it needs to get the job done. I just don't see how you can reduce the size of the Army, for example, with all that's going on right now and still expect to accomplish the mission.
In just over a week, Washington, D.C. will host what President Trump is calling a once-in-a-lifetime military parade. It marks the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and also his birthday at an estimated cost of $25 to $45 million, depending on who's doing the estimate. What are your thoughts, given the cuts that you're protesting today?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I could care less about the parade. I mean, I'm an Army vet. It's the Army's birthday. I'm proud of that. But $50 million on a parade, I'm not going to be here. What I'm concerned about is what that $50 million could have been used, right? They recently cut a program that would help veterans and housing. So there's 90,000 veterans that are at risk of losing their home, and this mortgage assistance program could have been funded through the money that is now being spent on the parade. So that's what I'm looking at. Whether or not he gets a birthday parade, that's on him. But I would really have rather seen that money go toward actual veteran services.
Are you saying the entire mortgage assistance program could have been funded?
I can get you the exact numbers, but the vast program was cut. And there are 90,000 veterans who are at risk of losing their homes. This is the program that helped 17,000 veterans last year stay in their homes, and it was cut with, I think, 8 days' notice. And all of that money could have been going to the program to keep veterans in their homes at risk of losing their mortgages.
Chris Purdy.
Trump's dumb parade can't be formally canceled. It can be canceled. You know, cancel culture, Republicans love to whine about when they over-exaggerate. Oh, I've been canceled, by which they mean I've been criticized in public, and now my actions are no longer seen as appropriate. And that's at the very least what's happening to Trump's parade. It's been canceled. It's been canceled by people in the media. It's been canceled by veterans. It's been canceled by former generals. It's been canceled by you, the people. It's been canceled by even some conservatives, like taxpayer organizations being like, you know, I like Trump actually, but is this really a valid use of taxpayer dollars? Like, really? Like, even if you love the military, it's like, shouldn't we be giving more money to the soldiers and the veterans? Just take this money and throw it in the VA fund, right? Like, it's been canceled by so many people. And you see it at Trump at these events. He's abusing the military for photo ops and whatnot. And I think a lot of people are disgusted by it. I really do. You know, this isn't the president on a Veterans Day or Memorial Day. This isn't the president, you know, going to a military graduation. The president's used the military for photo ops. That's true. Trump is not the first. He won't be the last. But this is a whole nother scandal. And he is being canceled over it. Hopefully we can still find a way to cancel the actual parade. But Trump's parade has been cancel cultured. And it's a good example of it.